Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Smoke and Steel podcast brought to you by StogieReview.com. Man, I'm hearing those words, just letting them sink in. I haven't really said it out loud too many times, and I kind of like it. It's growing on me. Well, not that it never, whatever. I am Walt, and this is another one of those incremental episodes. And I should probably put some things into context, because from your perspective, this is probably a little wild. So I've been posting these videos about once a week. So in the span of release dates, it's been about a month, and each time over that month, you've been watching these incremental videos where I say, "Yeah, we're getting the guys together," and you're probably thinking like, "This guy doesn't have any friends. They're imaginary. They're not there. It's been a month. They're still not there. Like, is it a sham?" Well, the truth of the matter is, I've been a little overzealous. So the very first beta episode that I recorded was on Friday a week ago. Then the podcast equipment showed up on Sunday. So I did episode 0.5 on Sunday, and then I recorded the third episode, which I'm calling 3/4, on Tuesday. Wow, banging the microphone there. Tuesday, right? It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, because that's when my car broke down. Tuesday. And then here we are on Friday, recording episode 7/8, because, I mean, what else do you call it at this point? So 4 episodes in the span of a week. From my perspective, it really hasn't been that long. From your perspective, it seems like really stretched out and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I promise you, the guys are coming. Everyone's excited. It's going to happen. Hopefully sooner than later. I think what I may wind up actually trying to do is trying to get some guys to come over on Sunday, maybe. I don't have anything going on, and I mean, it would be a kind of a cool, nice, relaxing afternoon to just kind of get the gang together and try to record something. If not, maybe Tuesday next week. Either way, we're not very far away from getting the gang together for a recording. I don't know that I want to refer to them as the gang, but the Cigar crew. We're not too far away from getting them together for a recording. The last episode that I recorded, episode 3/4, I talked about a disastrous 24 hours. I mean, I had water coming out of a light fixture in my vaulted ceiling. I had water in my basement the following morning. My car broke down and needed to be towed. Like, it was a really rough 24 hours. But it didn't end there. So, it was like Wednesday morning. So all this, the worst of it happened on Tuesday. Wednesday rolls around, and I'm doing the usual thing. I get up for work. I'm downstairs in my basement. I'm working. I'm having a cup of coffee. And then I finish my cup of coffee. I figure, well, I'll go upstairs to the kitchen. I'll pour myself a fresh cup of coffee. A little hungry while I'm up there. Grab a little snack out of the pantry. About 5 o'clock in the morning. So I go upstairs. I pour myself a cup of coffee. I go over to the pantry. And my wife bought these like nut and fruit bars from Costco. They're pretty good. And they were on the bottom shelf of the pantry. So I open the pantry. I bend over to grab a fruit and nut bar out of the box. And I feel a pop in my back. A wild flare of pain. And immediately knew that I threw my back out because I was stuck in a bent over position with like waves of pain just kind of washing over me. Unfortunately, now that I'm north of 40 years old, this happens from time to time. It happened a couple of years ago, and it was pretty bad. It was a lot worse than it is now. But anyway, I feel this pop, this pain. I'm stuck, and the only thing I could think to do was like I needed to stand up because it hurt to be bent over, and I knew that it was going to hurt even more standing up. But I knew that I needed to get upright so that I could like get to something to lean on. So I'm doubled over. I decide I'm going to try to use momentum. So I like push off my thighs. I try my absolute hardest to stand up. The momentum carries me. I stand up. Now the compression of my torso on my lower back is making things even worse. I'm like grabbing a hold of things, making my way across the kitchen. leaning on the counter and kind of getting my bearings. The day was pretty rough. I was really sore all day long, but it was exponentially worse the following morning. I went to get out of bed and it was just extraordinarily painful. In fact, I've been wandering around with a crutch, not like a traditional crutch. I have that some bit short and way up. I'm walking with it like a cane. I mean, it's not as cool as a cane. It had like a snake head or something on it, but just something to kind of lean on and to catch me when those like lightning bolts of pain pop through every once in a while. It is getting better. It's definitely better when I move around. Doesn't help that I have a desk job, but the more I move around, the better it feels. And first thing in the morning really sucks, but it's okay until about evening. And hopefully I'll be on the mend in a couple of days. I feel like I'm getting around better now that it's been a day or two, and hopefully it's just like kind of onward and upward and get through this, because I need to pick up my motorcycle, and I can't exactly ride my motorcycle with back pain, not being able to like lift my leg to throw it over, make it kind of difficult to pick the bike up from the shop, and it really sucks walking around with this quasi cane / crutch. Anyway, so yeah, that 24 hours, it wasn't just a rough 24 hours, like a rough 36 hours or so. It's not so good, but it's better now. My workday is over. I'm sitting out here talking to you, smoking a cigar. Things are looking up. Still waiting on a phone call from my mechanic, but things are looking up. I'm thinking positive. So the whole point of this episode wasn't just to kind of complain about my back and my degrading health as I pass 40 years old. I'll be 43 by the time this comes out on my birthday. Will have passed, and I'll be 43. It's kind of amazing to think that Stogie Review started back in 2006, almost 20 years ago. So I was like early 20s when Stogie Review started. A long time. Lots of fond memories. Anyway, not to get all nostalgic and misty-eyed, but we have some progress being made, and that was the whole point of turning the cameras on, was just to tell you about some of the progress that's being made ahead of getting the crew together. So today I did the initial legwork to get the podcast set up. So up until now, the podcasts have been appearing on YouTube only, just kind of uploading them to YouTube, tagging them as a podcast in the playlist, and then sort of embedding the podcast info or the video feed on StogieReview.com, and that's been our method of distribution up until this point. So YouTube pushes it out to our 9 subscribers. Thank all 9 of you. Brand new YouTube account, so I'm pretty happy that we got a handful of subscribers early on. It would have sucked to have 4 episodes in and me just be talking to one person, but it's looking up. Things are going well. I'm happy. I'm pleasantly surprised with progress so far. So I wanted to kind of expand that. If you're going to call it a podcast, it really should be available on podcast applications. I'm an Apple user, so I wanted to make sure that it was on Apple Podcast, which I haven't finished setting up yet. I was kind of working on that a little bit last night. I didn't get finished with it. I need to sort of return to that. I did, however, get it set up on Spotify, so if you search for the Smoke and Steel Cigar Podcast, it should show up. Hopefully it does. I've got a couple of episodes published. I've got one scheduled, and this one, when this is done, this will be there as well. So you should be able to get a video feed and an audio feed and kind of like watch it wherever you feel like it, whether you're on a cell phone or you want to watch through YouTube or right from StogieReview.com. But regardless of how you do it, there'll be a couple of distribution methods available depending on your preferences. I'm not really sure how many I'm going to push it out to yet. I think for right now, I'm primarily focused on Spotify and Apple. I've got options for like Apple Music, and the Google Play Store, I think, does podcast streaming. There are a couple of others. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do right now. Just for right now, I just want to get the initial 2 set up, and then focus more on actually creating the show, building the show, and I'll worry more about pushing it out later on. So we've got the podcast thing set up. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. The social media stuff is set up. Stogie Review on Instagram. I didn't create a special one just for the Smoke and Steel podcast. Figured it was easier just to use the established Stogie Review Instagram account as well as the established Stogie Review Facebook account. We have a Twitter account. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Twitter, X. I have no idea what the login credentials are. I probably have them somewhere. But I did dust off my Walt W. Twitter handle, or X handle, from many, many years ago. Whether or not I use it has yet to be seen. I tried to get back into it a couple of times over the past 5 or 6 years, and it's not what it used to be, and I'm just kind of inundated with just garbage. So I tend to stay away from it just because there's too much noise and not enough signal. So that's where we are. Social medias, the socials, podcast stuff. So yeah, but I mean, like, things are progressing forward. The only thing left is to stop talking about getting the guys together and actually getting them together. Oh, one thing that I definitely wanted to tell you about and totally forgot to tell you about was I created a Discord server for Stogie Review. It's not new. It's actually I created it in 2023, late 2023, I think. That's when Mike and I were initially talking about getting the band back together again. And one of the things that I wanted to do, in addition to creating a podcast with Mike, was setting up a Discord community. I use one for motorcycles. It's really handy and helpful, even if you're not like a gamer. And Discord is primarily for games, gaming, streaming, Twitch, and all that kick and all whatnot. But I've found it to be free and very useful for just communicating with communities in general. So I decided to create I feel really, the microphone's right in front of me. I'm like twiddling my hands, doing all this weird stuff. I had to stop. But I set that up and never really used it. It was basically Mike and I communicating back and forth a bit during the initial setup phase, and it didn't go anywhere, and the server sat dormant. It was kind of set up in the background, and I knew it was there, just didn't use it. So the other night I did a little bit of housekeeping on it. It's still a long way from being set up and operable, but there's a bare bones Discord server. I'll put a link in the description, as well as the StogieReview.com blog post about this episode. And please feel free to join. Maybe we can get some community discussion going on. Not entirely sure what's going to happen there outside of just talk. There was, many, many years ago, we had the Stogie Review fan forums, and they were they were fun. But man, there were a lot of work to maintain it and moderate it and whatnot. I don't know that I want to repeat that, but it'd be really cool to have a similar discussion style set up where we're actually talking about stuff instead of just posting pictures like, look at my cigar, and actually having a conversation. So hopefully that all works out. A lot of maybes in this episode, but it's there. Check out the link down below. I feel like at this point in the episode, I'm kind of in deep water, and I'm not entirely sure where to go from here. The point of the episode was to poke a little fun at myself about getting hurt, giving you an update on the podcast status and the Discord server, and now I've sort of ran out of things to talk about. So we're going to go rogue a little bit, and let's talk about where Stogie Review came from, because it is sort of the backbone behind the Smoke and Steel podcast. So it only makes sense to give you a little bit of a not necessarily a history lesson, but tell you a bit about how the site came to be. And last episode I said it probably wouldn't have that discussion, but I'm kind of grasping at straws, and that seems like the most logical thing to talk about. So Stogie Review was born back in 2006. and it was created by Jerry Cruz. Now, at the time, Jerry and I both were playing an online video game called Battlefield 1942. We had both met up with some people in Colorado online, and we joined this gaming clan called High Plains Strike Force. And HPSF, as it was called, had a discussion forum, and on that forum, mostly it was just game talk, strategies for different maps, competition league style stuff, an off-topic section. And in that off-topic section, there was talk of cigars, which came out of like weird voice chats, because we would get together much like people do in video games these days, where you're trying to conquer the other team, and it's so much easier to do it when you can talk to your teammates over comms. So we'd be talking together over comms, and Jerry at the time was smoking cigars in his house, and it was always difficult to hear him, understand him, because he had this cigar in his mouth, and he's telling us what to do, or telling us what's happening on the map. Go get him, sort of stuff, where you were kind of struggling to understand him. And lo and behold, it was he was smoking a cigar. There were a couple of other cigar smokers in the clan, surprisingly. And the off-topic section of the forum started getting cluttered up with cigar talk. We'd be talking about different cigars that we tried, recommendations, sort of mini reviews. And Jerry thought, well, why don't we create a WordPress blog and keep all of our stuff there rather than clutter up the forums? So he created StogieReview.com. He set up an account. He set me up with an account, and the two of us were sort of posting reviews back and forth and commenting on those reviews back and forth. And you didn't really think much of it, aside from like, this is our way of discussing cigars between the two of us in a way that didn't become a burden to the gaming clan. So we didn't really think much of it in terms of an audience. I mean, it was never meant for anyone else. It was just us and one or two of the guys from the gaming clan that we thought were keeping an eye on it. But lo and behold, over, I don't know, a couple weeks, couple of months, we started seeing comments from people that weren't us, and more comments from people that weren't us, and it started to grow. Like, surprisingly, it was growing. People were paying attention to these two random people that didn't have a whole lot to say about cigars. At least nothing like educational. It was just all personal opinion. And then one day, YouTube was still, it's like, wow, I feel so old saying this. YouTube was still fairly young, and I don't know what gave Jerry the idea to do video cigar reviews, but he did. He started recording videos in his spare bedroom using his webcam, talking about different cigars, and they were popular. Actually, you know what? Those early days YouTube was still young, but we weren't using YouTube. We were using a service called Blip TV, because the quality of the video was better on Blip TV, and it was also free. So he started posting videos, and they were doing really well. So I followed suit. I started posting videos, and that's when the site really started getting popular. We brought on some help, like some other people were interested in participating as well. So we brought on a guy named Brian Tiptone, I think, was one of the first people we had helping us out with the site. And then after that, there were a whole bunch, and I don't remember the order in which they came aboard. It was me, it was Jerry, it was Brian Tiptone early on. There was Brian Hewitt. There was Ben. Ben came along later on. There was Mike Forey. There was, oh man, there was a few more. I could see his face. I can't think of his name, from Vegas. But yeah, there were a handful of us that kind of sort of came and went over the years. Because of those early video cigar reviews, we got relatively popular in our niche, and we started getting invited to cigar events, and we went to our first trade show. Was, I think, my first year there. I don't remember what was the year my daughter was born or the year before, but it was my first time in Vegas, and it was ungodly hot in Vegas, but it was fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. And then I went to several more after that. I think it was like Vegas 2 years in a row. Then it was we went to New Orleans a couple of years. Was it Tampa? Orlando. Then I think I went back to Vegas. But it was a lot of fun, and started meeting people in the cigar industry, manufacturers, different reps, brokers, and it was really cool being part of this, being a cog in the machine, getting heads up on new releases, getting samples of new releases, in turn talking about those new releases, sharing our opinions, getting feedback. It was a really cool process, and it was something I took very seriously. I was very, very active on Stogie Review for a while. Jerry started getting busy, and then he tapered back. Then I think at the time, at this stage, Jerry, the most active of us were Jerry, me, Brian Hewitt, and Ben. I think Ben came along after Jerry started getting busy and stepped away. Then it was just me, Brian Hewitt, and I think that's when Ben came on. And Mike Forey was around too. So yeah, Jerry got busy. Then I got busy. Then I think Mike got busy. Then Brian Hewitt got busy. Then Mike came back. Then Ben got busy. And then Mike got busy. And then Mike came back. It's really hard to follow. But again, I mean, it's been the site's been around since 2006. So there's a lot of years in there where things have happened, and I'm sure I'm missing big gaping parts of the story. But that's kind of where we're at now. The site, Stogie Review, has been kind of dead for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years. It's been dead for. There's been very limited activity to bordering zero activity for a lot more than 2 years, but there was sort of a flurry of activity in 2023 when Mike was sort of getting back involved again. And then, there was lots of activity when Ben was busy with it before that. But again, it's like it's been dormant for a while, and hopefully this sort of, becomes a springboard to. I don't want to see it be as big and busy as it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but it's just fun and nostalgic. So I'm looking forward to seeing some level of activity and, sort of dabbling in the community, in the cigar space, without like investing as much time and energy as I did previously, because it was a lot. And when you start having kids, that's when things change. When I had my first daughter, things got busy. When my second daughter came around, that pretty much squashed most of my activity on Stogie Review. I was so busy chasing around 2 kids that it was tough. And then by the time my third daughter came around, that was it. I didn't have time for that anymore. And then another interesting thing happened with me, with cigars in general. So when I used to love getting a cigar that I had never tried before, sitting down with it with a notebook, like I was nerding out over the whole review thing. I'd sit down with a new cigar and a notebook and really focus on what I was smoking, and I would take notes, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I liked pairing different drinks, whether it be bourbon or scotch or beer, with those cigars and seeing how the notes worked out. But when I started having kids, I couldn't take the risk of not liking a cigar. So in the past, before I had kids, if I didn't like the cigar, so what? I threw it in the ashtray and I lit up another one, and we'd start all over again. But when I had kids, I didn't have time for that. Like, I had an allotted amount of time that I needed to get stuff done in. And that cigar was either going to be good or I was going to be miserable trying to smoke it through that limited allotment of time. So I reached the point where it was like, do I try the unknown cigar that I don't know if I'm going to like, knowing that I've only got an hour and a half to do this? Or do I grab the cigar that I've had a dozen times before, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times before? I know that it's going to work. I know that it's Old Faithful. It's my go-to. I know I'm going to enjoy it. Which path do I go down? Well, 99% of the time I went down the path of the cigar that I've had over and over again, which made producing content for Stogie Review nearly impossible. When you smoke the same cigar 3 days, or 3 times in a week, like, well, what are you supposed to post about? It's kind of tough to do any of that sort of stuff. So that was one sort of troublesome thing that I found myself into. And even these days, my kids are a little bit older. They're self-sufficient. They're in the house right now playing and stuff. And here I am sitting outside with a cigar. I could have picked something unknown to me, but I reached for the 601 Blue Label, which I've had many, many times before because I like it. I knew I would enjoy it, and I wouldn't sit out here talking to you wondering, like, why did I light this thing up? Because it's awful, and I just don't want to smoke it anymore. Well, folks, this episode it feels like a mess. It feels very scattered. It feels very rough around the edges. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully it is the last incremental episode you experience until I get the gang together. There we go again, the gang. It's the crew, until I get the crew together. So, again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe on the various services, hit us up on social media, and join the Discord. Anyway, have a good one. I'll catch you in the next one. I was like desperately thinking of how in the hell do I wrap this? I need not like a call sign, but I need a signature way to end this, and I don't have one, and my brain just went blank. So here we are. That's the end. Finn.